Internet's running slow. Yahweh, we thank you. We give you praise and we give you honor only to you and you alone, to your name. You're the Yohe Wahe. Toda Rabbi Yahweh for the teaching us, the Lamadanu, teaching us your Torah and teaching us your laws, your statutes, and your commandments. Toda Rabbi Yahweh for the Lakased, meaning your mercy that you've shown to your people. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Praise the mighty Yah. All right, let's see here. All right, bum, 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 bum. Let me get right where I want to go. Okay. All right, come on, work with me. All right, it is going slow. All right, you guys can see my screen, right?
Yes.
All right, cool. All right, so this week's Torah portion is going to be what they call a double portion. Okay, the Torah portion that we're going to be looking at, or the two that we're going to be looking at this week, are Chukkat and Balak. So there's two of them. The reason why there are two is simply because it's not enough information in Chukkat. It's only like 2 chapters. You know, chapter 19 and well to 22 is very short. And then what they're going to include is they're going to include Balak. Okay. So what is it? Let's see right here. Kind of review. All right. So we're going over these two. Wow. Okay. It's not cooperating. Those are the two that we're going to be going over. So, and sometimes when we're reading, you might think that, you know, this goes by itself, but it doesn't. It's a double reading. So you have to just understand for the next couple of days, today's the Yom Shalishi. So you have Ravi'i, Kamishi, and Shishi, and Shavi'i. All those are going to be included to finish up with this in particular segment right here. Okay. So there's a lot of information that's between these two double portions right here. Okay. Chukkat, does anyone know what a Chukkat is?
A law of decree.
Yes, it's a decree. Okay. And usually with every Torah portion, just to kind of always make sure we understand this, in the Torah portions, they generally tell us, where's that chapter number 19? Right here. But midbar. You'll find out the name of the Torah portion within the first line or two of the Torah. And what I mean by it is that they'll tell you the word, like for example, Chukkat is going to be in chapter number 19. Within that first or second line of chapter number 19, that's where we're going to get our Torah portion. And then also too, we're going to see that with Balak. Come on, hurry up. It's just, I'm sorry, you guys, it's going kind of slow over on this side. I don't know what's going on, but 19. Come on. Really slow. Super slow. All right. All right. Yep, I'm on the right one. All right. This is crazy. One time I have to read this and okay, come on. Yeah, it's taking long. I'm sorry, you guys. This internet's slow. It's not read it. Let me just get out of here right quick. It's not working. So why waste it out? And see you come back in. Old school. If you have your Bibles, I want you, because the internet's going really, really slow. If you have your Bibles, I want you to go to Numbers chapter number 19, and we'll just read it in English for now. So go to chapter number 19 in the book of Numbers or Bimidbar. All right. So in this in particular chapter, what we have here is that Yahweh was speaking to Moshe in verse number 1, and he begins the conversation off by saying, "This is the Chukkat, which is this is the regulation from the Torah, which Yahweh has commanded." When it talks about this is the regulation from the Torah, what do you think that's saying? What do you guys think that's
Okay.
saying?
Going to be an instruction that they must follow.
Yes, absolutely. So what it is, let's see if this works. Oh, that's not even working. All right, I can't try that either. Okay, it's just ain't working. It's slow. What it's saying is that because this was hard for me to understand when I first started learning the Torah. The Torah itself, when people say, "Or are you Torah only?" Right, is telling you that inside of the Torah there are decrees. Okay, so Yah has said, "Okay, I'm gonna outline the Torah for you. Then we'll give you the instructions." But within the instructions, you have all these different levels. So you have the Chukkat, which is the regulation, or the Chukim, which is the regulations. And then you have the judgments of Yah that fall inside of the Torah. So when you talk about the Torah is inclusive of everything that the Most High has said, but he's given us instructions on how he wants us to carry out those judgments or those decrees. And so, when we talk about these decrees, it has to do with the Hebrew word called the kok, okay, which is the ket, which is dealing with the wall of separation. So what the Most High is saying is that which is separate, I'm bringing you together. So within this, so I'm not used to teaching how being right. What's inside of Yah's decrees, Yah is using the decrees to gather us because we're separated from Yah, right? We're all the stuff that he's talking about is completely foreign. Just like when we read last week, all the different things about the offerings and how you should bring it and all this kind of stuff, it doesn't make sense. Like when you're reading in chapter number 19, he's going to go and talk about the red heifer, right? And he's going to talk about what the instructions are and how you're supposed to, number one, obtain it, who you're supposed to get it from, and how is it supposed to be dealt with. And there's certain decrees on what this red heifer should be like. Okay, it has to be red, it has to be perfect. And tell me something else about the red heifer is necessary for it. Is red, can't have no defect. What's one of the other one of the main things he says it should never have on its neck?
A yoke.
Right. So why? Why a yoke? Why do you think? See, these are the things that we don't get a chance to really discuss. We just accept them and say, okay, well, it's a red heifer, and it has to be perfect, and no defects in it. But also, too, it doesn't supposed to have a yoke on its neck. So, right? So no yoke, never supposed to have been worked. Why?
Because maybe because it's going to be responsible in a sense to purify the people, and so It should be as pure as it can be, I guess, for lack of a better word.
No, that's great. So it tells us something about about work, and it tells us something about what they call a mum or defect. Okay, you have a better chance of obtaining a perfect animal if it never has any work done. It's never done any work. You have a better chance of it not having anything wrong with it because it hasn't been exposed to a lot of, the things that working animals are exposed to. You have a better chance of it not twisting its ankle or getting festering sores or, all these different types of things. So she is not supposed to have any work done on her. Work is a picture of bondage. Okay. So there's no work. And the actual, I wish I can write, but I can't. The actual name for yoke has to do with the aleph, which is the first letter of the word yoke, and then a lamed, which is the second one. Okay, it means to lift up, right? So a strong authority, right? Or to is it no, it's the aleph? No, sorry, correction. It's not the aleph, it is the ayin. It's not the aleph. Forgive me, it's not the aleph. It is the ayin. Okay. And so what the ayin is the eye, and it has to do with seeing something, okay, or recognizing. And then the next letter is the lamed, which has to do with the shepherd's staff or the yoke. So it means to see the authority. That's what it is, okay? Because once you put a yoke on something, it's under your authority. It's under the authority for you to do the work that you wanted to do. So in this case, this in particular animal has no one putting any yoke on it, so they're not being directed. They haven't been directed by anybody. Okay, so the in particular animal that's going to be killed, right, has to have absolutely no work, no pressure, no nothing on it. Okay, none. Let's talk about some other things. So why is he directing Eleazar to take the why do you think he's asking Eleazar, the Kohen, to take this animal outside the camp and to burn it up and so forth? Why Eleazar?
Well, the other two sons are dead, right? The other two priests.
Yeah, the two older, but he could have asked for Ithamar, but he didn't. He could have asked for Aaron to do this, but he didn't. He's asking for Eleazar. So that, that raises the question, why? When you read the Torah, I want you to start asking why. Why does he asking for Eleazar? So when you look at Eleazar, the first thing I look for is what? What's the first thing you should be looking for when you read the name Eleazar?
The name.
That's it, Dr. You read. That's it. It's his name. And what does his name mean? Let's just chop it up. Well, we got El in there.
Character.
Oh, yeah. So what's El? What does El mean?
Leader.
Yes, it's a leader. It's the strong leader. Okay. And it's it's a powerful one called El. Okay. Then his second part of his name is called Azar. So it's El Azar. So El is Elohim, right? A contracted form of his name. And then Azar. Azar in the Hebrew language means to be a help. Thank you. It's a help. Okay. So this is what we see. So he's asking, when you and I are reading this, we're supposed to look at it like, okay, Yah is about to help the children of Israel. That's what he's doing. The purpose of the red heifer is to help the children of Israel. See, so now you look at it as like, okay, well, we understand it's for sins, but this is Yah's way of helping Israel. Okay. Very important for us to look at. The other part is, it said that he's supposed to take the blood with his fingers and he's going to sprinkle it 7 times directly towards because he's outside of the camp, right? So now he brings this animal outside the camp And I think later on, I'm going to go over the elements of that, probably later on, Yom Kamishi, we'll talk about the elements of why there was the scarlet, because I have to write that out. Why was the scarlet yarn? What else did he have to burn with that? The wood. Why did he have to burn the wood up with it? And so he have all these different elements that he's supposed to do or bring with it. But he sprinkles his blood 7 times, directly lining up with the temple. Even though he's outside, he's still directed towards the temple, directly towards it. So the question I ask myself is why? Why is he pointing directly towards the temple? What's you guys' thoughts?
The temple is the dwelling place, the Mishkan of Yahweh.
Yes.
And, he's the one that it's being offered to, to purify the people.
Yes. And also to recognize in all of our other teachings that we've gone over in the past, where the priest, when he asked Aharon to sprinkle blood, they're supposed to sprinkle blood in front of the Ark of the Testimony, and they're supposed to do it 7 times. So now he's doing this 7 times, right? And in those other instances where something is being sprinkled before the Most High and before his presence, and to acknowledge what it is that this is a way of him joining. What's the blood? Let's talk about the blood. What's the blood? What's in the blood? Leviticus chapter 19 tells, what is it?
Life is in the blood.
Life is in the blood. So there's Kai in the blood. So what he's really doing is he's joining the life of this animal towards the Most High, because that's the reason why he's doing it. He's joining the Most High to this sacrifice. Okay. What else we have? He washed his clothes. Okay. So after he does this, he burns everything up. Then the Kohen, in verse number 7, is to wash his clothes and himself in water. And then after, he might enter the camp. Okay. Question is, why does he have to wash his clothes and his body? Remember, he's a priest, so everything he did he's already clean. You can't do this in a state of uncleanness. So what made him unclean? That he has to wash his clothes and his body.
Yes. Yes, did.
Who said that? Dr. Ured, you said that?
Yes.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So this, because of the death of this animal, death brings uncleanness. So in our Torah portion, we learn what's the purpose of the red heifer. Why is Yah giving that? Why is he helping the children of Israel?
Isn't it to purify them from sin?
Well, it's because, yeah, but from what? What's the sin that he's purifying them? Because you got the Day of Atonement that he purifies the temple. You got them for other different things that they've done in sin, and you never hear nothing about the red heifer. Here it's used for sin, right? Zaz is used for, but what's the main thing that is used for?
Uncleanness.
Yep, it's unclean. But remember what Dr. Ured said. I asked him, well, what made him unclean? What made Eleazar unclean? And he said, what, Dr. Ured?
Death.
Death. So the children of Israel is going to be given this red heifer because if they touch anything that was dead, or they walked upon a grave, or anything like that, so the actual offering is for those ashes are for people who are experiencing some form of death. Zazarat is the death of what? What's dying in Zazarat? Or leprosy? What's dying? The skin. The skin is going through a process of death. The boils and the pus and all that kind of stuff. That's death is happening to the tissue. He talks about you can see the holes and stuff like that. That's what he's saying. And so what it is that this is used for death, because he says in verse number 11, anyone who touches a corpse, or no matter whose dead body it is, will be unclean for 7 days. Okay. So let me ask you a question. Why is Eleazar, the helper of Elzar, my helper, why is he sprinkling? How many times did he sprinkle his blood?
7 times.
7 times. How many days is that person going to be unclean for?
7.
So listen what I'm about to tell you. Yah is having him sprinkle it 7 times because the 7 times is representative of the 7 days. Every day he's giving, because blood is what? Life, right? So he's giving life. Okay. So what the Most High is asking for, he's asking for this cleansing for 7 days to get this person through that time. Because remember, their whole community is living amongst the Most High. They're living, he's living there with them. Okay. And so when he's living among them, he's saying that I don't want any death around me. I don't want any death around me, because death brings uncleanness. So I always want everybody to be clean, but I know that you're not going to be able to be clean for these 7 days. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Eleazar sprinkle this blood 7 times, and then I'm going to burn up that animal that gave its life for you. And I'm going to take those ashes and I'm going to have them put that to the side outside of the camp. The ashes can't even come inside the camp. Because when a person goes unclean or a person has Zazarat, they got to go outside the camp, which tells us that the Most High is saying that anybody that's going to be around me cannot be unclean. Do you guys see that? You can't be around me because I live in there. So if death is bringing, because death is always going to happen, but I want to make sure that you understand that I have to give you something to purify you from this death, that this uncleanness that you have on you for 7 days. I have to be able to provide for that, not just on the 7th day and not just on the 3rd day, but I make provision for you so you can live among me in that state. You understand? Because let's ask the question. Before the King of the universe, right today, is there anything that's living in front of him dead?
No.
What is his favorite saying that he says before he says something when he makes a promise? He says, surely as what?
I live.
I live. As surely as I live, saith the Most High. Yeah. He bases it, every promise that he makes is based upon life. It's never upon death. It's always upon life. The reason why a person becomes unclean, even through sexual behaviors, is because what's happened between the man and the woman is that the man has his sperm cells died. There's death on him. When a woman's egg drops, there's death on her during her menstrual cycle. You see? So anytime there's death, the Most High is like, I got to cover that because I'm alive. My presence alone demands life. You see? So last week when I said, does he want anybody to die? And he kept saying, you want us to die, you want us to die. He doesn't want everybody to die. He doesn't want them to die before their time. Okay, but while you're living with him, he wants us to maintain cleanness. So let me ask you something. Can any priest or Aharon at any time approach the Most High when he's unclean?
No.
No. So the priests are a picture and they're the teachers of what Yah's expectations are for the nation, because they're the teachers of the nation. They're the foundation of the nation. Okay. So when people are going around saying they have the Holy Spirit and they're close to God and they have, they're sanctified, you can clearly see that they don't know what they're talking about. And it's sad because a lot of them are convinced that they have this wonderful relationship with the Most High. And what they're doing is, when they say this, is they're minimizing the Most High in the set apartness that he is. And they're making him common. So this is being brought to our attention, not because you and I have a red heifer, not because we have the ashes, not because we're living inside the camp. The Most High is giving this for us so we can understand that when you worship the Most High, or you understand the Most High, you'll see clearly that there's a distinction between that which is living and that which is dead. You'll see a clear distinction because he said, I live forever. So he's really literally telling us there is no impurity in me. There is no uncleanness in the Most High. And there's none. You'll never find it. There is no unrighteousness in the Most High. There's no injustice in the Most High. There's none of that in the Most High. There's no fault in the Most High. Okay. But when he lives among a people like the community of Israel, who are rebels and all these sorts of things, and he knows that, okay, well, they brought upon themselves my discipline and my judgment, and they're all about to start dropping dead. Because I've already pronounced judgment on them. So they're going to now have to have some way of purifying themselves over the next 40 years. Okay. So we know that they had the animals out there with them because they were crying in this Torah portion about not having any water for their animals again. So they got their animals. All right. So that's another one of the reasons, is because he wants to purify themselves. All right. So here's another thing. It says in verse number, what is that? Verse number 9. Okay. The person, so Eleazar is not the person who burned up the heifer, by the way. So he's got somebody with him to bring out the heifer, and they're supposed to burn them, and they're supposed to wash their clothes. And didn't say nothing about their body. They're supposed to just wash. Oh no, it is himself, is wash his clothes and himself in water and remain unclean until the evening. Why the evening? Why are they unclean until the sun goes down?
The start of another day.
Oh, it's not the start of another day. I would be incorrect if I said that. It's a transition time out of that which can be seen versus that what can't be seen. Because the beginning of a day is when the light comes up. The end of that in particular day, I say what I said because a lot of people think that a new day starts when the sun goes down. A new day doesn't start when the sun goes down. The daylight ends. That's that time frame ends. Okay. So cleanness, okay, cleanness is recognized in light because Yah he's light. And in him, there is no darkness. Okay. So the Most High is saying at that in particular time, during that when the light is up, that's when you're unclean. The moment that the sun goes down, that uncleanness ends at that moment. So the Most High doesn't keep a person in uncleanness for which you would say a 24-hour period. It's only when so it's between the sun up and the sun down. That's when uncleanness is recognized by the Most High in this in particular instance. Okay. But he says 7 days. So what are the 7 days? It's not a trick question.
Both completeness.
It's the time when the sun comes up. Okay. And people include the darkness in it, but that's not a day. That is not the day. By definition, that is not the day. Okay. So what you would say, Akika, is there not unclean at that time? No, being in darkness is like a holding time. It's a transition between the two lights between there. So it's a time between the beginning of the day, and it's the time between the end of the day. But you're only unclean for that period of time. Okay. So at that time, you can see that a day has ended. Let's see here. Anyone who touches a course. Okay. The person who collects the ashes, the one who collected the ashes of the heifer is to wash his clothes. And didn't say nothing about washing his body. So why is he unclean? Why is his clothes? Why does he need to wash his clothes? So you got two. You got the one who touched the animal. That's okay. That's unclean. And he got to wash his body and his clothes. Then you got Then you have Eleazar who touched the blood. Okay, he slit it and he touched the blood. He has to wash his body and his clothes. The person who picks up the ashes, so there's three individuals. The person who gets the ashes and collects the ashes, first they have to be clean. Okay, Eleazar had to be clean, then he got unclean. The person who took the animal and burned it up, they were clean to be able to take the animal, and then they become unclean. And then the third one is a reason. The third one says they got it, they're picking up, they have to be clean to even pick up the ashes. But the moment they picked up the ashes, they became unclean and they had to wash their clothes. Okay. Now, the reason why I mention this is because when the Most High tells Israel and he instructs them through the Torah, okay, giving them instructions about this Chukkat, this is a Chukkat, this is a decree on how for them to receive purification from dead bodies and Zazarat, more specifically, and someone who died in a tent or, different vessels or whatever. The Most High is prescribing how they are supposed to get connected to the Most High through a person. So, for example, let's read, let's see. I'm going to skip down. All right. Verse number 17, for an unclean person, they are to take some of the ashes of the animal burned up as a purification from sin and add them to fresh water in a container. Okay. So this is what for the unclean person. The next says a clean person is supposed to take a bunch of hyssop leaves and dip them in the water and sprinkle it on the tent and all its containers and on the people who were there and on the person who touched the bone or the person who killed or the person killed or the one who died naturally on I think it was there, or naturally, or the is that by or on? I can't see it. Or the grave. Okay. So it takes a clean person to be able to sprinkle the unclean person for the third and the seventh days. On the seventh day, he will purify himself, then he will wash his clothes and himself in water. The person that was unclean now has to do the very same thing that Eleazar did. I want you to see that. I'll say it again. Let's read it again. The clean person will sprinkle the unclean person. Okay. The clean person is going to sprinkle the unclean person. And on the third and the seventh days, and on the seventh day, he will purify himself. Then he will wash his clothes and himself in water, just like Eleazar did. So what it is that the Most High is saying everything that Eleazar has done is literally what this person has to go through. They're going to have to go through it like washing your clothes and washing your body on that seventh day. You see, so there's a connection between Eleazar and the person who's unclean. There's a connection between the person who took the heifer and burned it and the ashes. Okay. Just like the person who took the heifer has to burn it up and then they were clean when they did it, they're going to have to take it and burn it up and then take the ashes and put it in a container, right? So it's telling us that the person who takes these ashes, right, and they put them in the water, they're unclean. Then the person who's going to go ahead and sanctify the other person has to be able to take a thing of hyssop, which was one of the items that was thrown into the fire. So it's making a connection between what happened with the heifer and what they're doing. So the long and the short is this. The instructions that are given are on both sides. Is for the priest and the unclean. The priest becomes unclean until the evening, and then he has to wash his clothes and bathe his body. The person that was supposed to be cleansed on the third and seventh day, on the seventh day, they got to wash their clothes and wash their body. The person who took the red heifer out to burn up the ashes, right, who facilitated is exactly like the person who took the water and put the hyssop into it and then sprinkled the person. So everybody starts off on this side with the priest and these other individuals is clean. They become unclean. Then on the other side, you have one person that is clean, and then he becomes unclean through the process of going through purification, which right now that kind of seems like this is kind of bizarre. Like these things don't make sense. Like why if I'm clean, I become unclean because I'm purifying somebody? Is that a mystery or what is it? Why do you think the person who's dipping? So for example, I'm unclean, Dr. Ured comes and he performs the service on me on the 37th day, and he sprinkles me with the hyssop and the water and all the vessels. And then after that, I got to wash my body and my garments. And then he has to go and he has to wash his garments. So how did he get unclean? By purifying me. What made him unclean? What made the clean person unclean?
Let's say being in the present.
Wow. Go ahead, Jenny. You're going to say something?
I was just going to say for being exposed to
Same thing. He just said
unclean person. Yeah, same thing.
it's the same thing in two different ways. And I would agree with you. Because what we're recognizing, everyone, is that death has a what? What is death? Death has a presence. Do you remember what he just said? He said, verse 14, this is a law. This is a coke, okay? When a person dies in a tent, everyone who enters the tent and everything in the tent will be unclean for 7 days. So what it is that death has a presence on it, okay? It is a presence. So when someone walks into an environment that where it's at, you get it on you. Now that's scary, isn't it? He says, if you touch the grave, like somebody's buried, I get a little grief from people because they like, well, why haven't you gone out to the gravesite, to mom's gravesite, right? Why don't you go out and spend time at the grave and bring flowers and cry and all this? I'm like, hey, number one, she's not there. Okay. That's number one. She's been gathered to her people. Secondly, I don't feel like going to stand on a graveside. I don't want to be around uncleanness like that. I really don't. Not that I have a red heifer to purify me, but I still don't feel comfortable going to a gravesite just to what am I there for? Am I going to talk to my mom? The dead don't know nothing. They're silent. You can't talk to them, and they're not talking to you. So don't fool yourself, because it says that they don't know anything. They're quiet. They're silent. So let them rest, basically. So we know that death has a presence, and that a person who has this on them, or they entered in the tent, they become unclean for 7 days just from walking inside the house. So a house is a place that's contained, or a tent, a dwelling is contained with windows, doors, or whatever. So we know that death has a presence, okay? Just like life has a presence. We begin to study off talking about, well, why is the Most High doing this? Go ahead, Akoti Pam.
Yes, is that why let me back up. I'm thinking of the scripture that says if someone dies in a tent or a house and there's an open container, even what's inside of it becomes unclean because death has a presence. It's contaminated.
Yes, that's the very verse that is right underneath what we just read about the coke, the decree of the Most High. Is right. You're spot on. It's right there. That's where he's saying, listen, it has a presence on it. Okay. So even if you had an open container, and a container that they're talking about, it said it to have a thread around it where if it was open, death has even went into the container. So what Yah's really trying to show us, remember the word coke, because that's the name of the Torah portion. Remember, I told you that word, I wish I could write right now. The coke is a wall. The first letter is a ket, okay? And it means a wall. The second one is a kof, which means to gather, okay? To gather that which is on the inside from the outside. It's a time of gathering. That's why he uses the word coke for festivals. He says, this is a coke forever. This is a coke. This is a coke. Okay. So when we talk about this, we're talking about literally a presence. we start our study off talking about the presence of the Most High, that they're in his presence. So if he's saying that he's life, so this here is death and it has a presence. And the Most High is saying that he doesn't want it in his presence. And he doesn't, and he knows that you and I are going to experience it. But when we experience it, he's saying, because I'm with you, I have what separates us from Yah is uncleanness. So I'm going to let you know that you got to go through a process for 7 days to get this stuff off of you, because it stays on you. You understand? You go stand on a grave. He's saying, so I thought the person was dead. Is it okay for us to attend a funeral? Yes, I attended my mom's funeral, but what I'm saying is I don't make a practice of going to the gravesite. You can go to a funeral. You're going to have to. You're definitely going to have to go to funerals. Just like you go to weddings, you got to go to funeral. But just understand what Most High is saying to us, okay? What he's saying, when I say I don't go to a gravesite, it's not because I don't love my mother or I don't love the people who died. I understand that. And the only time I'm going to go there is when I have to, okay? I understand that the Most High he's telling us that he's about life. So if a person has already died like 4 years ago or 5 years ago, and he says, if you go stand on a grave, then he says you're unclean. How is that possible if the person's already been dead? So what Yah is revealing to us, everyone, is kind of mysterious, but Yah is trying to show us through the kukim, or it's called the kok. He's showing us through the kok, this decree, that my ways are not your ways, and my thoughts are not your thoughts. And this is what a lot of people want to press upon the Most High. They're trying to press this on him. Okay. Akoti Pam brought up 1 Samuel chapter number 15, which we're going to be going over on Shabbat probably. Shaul was trying to press Yah on Yah's word. Yah gave him a word and he pressed on Yah. Like, I'm going to go against what you said. I'm going to go off of the way of what you said because I don't really prescribe or like what you said. I know you told me to go and do something, but I'm going to go ahead and do something opposite. And what the Most High is laying down to us is literally, he says he's laying down a law. He is laying down a law. He is laying down a law. And he's laying down these decrees, not for the sake of you saying, well, I can't keep them. So, I'm miserable. I'm depressed because I can't keep them. No, he's saying, I'm going to teach you while you're in your exile about who I am. Okay. Because the only way that you can get back to me is you fully understand and turn your whole heart towards me. So what the Most High is doing is he's showing us what it is on who he is and what death is and stuff like this, and how they're supposed to deal with certain things because of his presence. And so we like, well, that's not important to me. So what people do, everyone, is they go ahead and they abandon this. They abandon this coke. And the Most High has never told us to abandon a coke because you can't keep it, because the decree means something that is engraved, by the way. I wish I could be able to write to teach you. It's about engraving. That's what a coke also means. When you look it up, go to that little study tool thing that I showed you. And let's see if we can see it. Let's see if this internet will give us a break. Let's see if it will give us a break. Yeah, just let me get it, please. Because I want to show it to them. Okay, so we're in Numbers. Yeah, obviously speak to the children to bring a red heifer. Okay, let's see if it's a coke. Okay, so here it is in coke. I don't have to write anything. Let me see. Spoke saying, okay, here it is. 2708 is called the Chukkat. Okay, they only call it Chukkat because it comes from coke. Okay, let's click and see if it behaves. Come on, behave. All right, the Chukkat, right? The Chukkat comes from coke, right here. It means something that is inscribed. Okay, it's inscribed or prescribed. It's an enactment and it's a statute. Okay, but it comes from coke. And let me show you what coke is, which is so this Chukkat is the femininity of this word, but a coke is, go on, behave. 2708. Come on. Come on. They don't want to behave. Okay. Might be the website. I don't know. All right. Here it is. Code 2706. Check this out. 2706 is something that's old. Okay. They're giving you all these other terms down here about boundaries because it's what it represents by boundaries is saying these are the walls. So Yah's putting up these walls. Okay. And he's saying, don't go outside of this wall. You know what I'm saying? Don't go past this point. Right. But let's 2706. Is it? I'm gonna go to this other tool and see if it works. 2706. All right, come on. All right. Let's go right here and put in our little tool that I gave you guys. Search for the number. All right. So here's the number 2706. Oh, come on. Okay, 27. And we get in a study on this too. 2706. If you guys see this ain't me, this is this thing, man. It's just, it will not behave. Probably because you see how many little tabs I got open? I got a gang of them. I really wanted to show this to you. But it's not behaving. Come on. Oh, guess they don't want us to know about it. Anyway, everyone, what it is that a Coke is something that's engraved. Okay. That's basically what it is. It's something that is engraved. That's not my word. All right, forget it. I'm getting upset. Well, I tried. Maybe later. Anyway, it's engraved. Okay. That means that it can never be changed. Yah's decrees, everyone, are never going to change. Okay. Why? Because he's a king. So when he writes these decrees, he's not just making an accident. So I'm only going to do this right now. And I don't have any intention of ever keeping these things. Okay. He's never going to do that. All right. So the Most High has what they call the Kukim or the Kokes, which are the decrees that he have that he's written, and no one can ever change them. Okay. So he's letting us know that death, this is the way I'm always going to feel about death. I feel the way about death that I felt back then. So even though you guys are where you are and you have to touch dead bodies and all these sorts of things, and you have to go to funerals and all this, now can you see? This thing is tripping. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Now we can hear you.
Okay, so let me do this final understanding. The Most High is telling us that you guys are contaminated. You guys are contaminated because you haven't been purified. Okay, so when we find this out, the average person is going to go, I'm looking for a solution to get out of it. I want to get out of the curse. That's what Christianity does, is trying to give you an easy way out of the curses. Have you noticed that he died so he could cover the curses? They don't want to be under the curses no more. So what they'll do is they'll come up with something else so they can get free of the curse. And so they can get free of the uncleanness. Go back to the Garden of Eden. What did Adam do when he committed that crime against the Most High by not listening to what he said? What's the first thing he did?
I think he claimed.
What did he do?
Blamed his wife.
Well, he did that. But prior to him blaming her, what did they do?
They made leaves to cover themselves.
Okay, so they went and they said, okay, they knew at that moment their eyes are open. And so what they did is they try to cover up the crime. They try to cover it up. They try to cover up their nakedness. They try to cover up the exposure. So what I'm saying is when you find out that you're naked or you find out you're unclean, the first thing our human instinct is to do to cover it. When somebody lies and they're trying to do a fast one, the first thing they try to do is
Cover it up.
they got to cover it up. We're going to find out later on this week when Shaul did what he did. The first thing he did is he said something and he responded with a lie to try to cover it up. So this is the reason why Okoti Pamper, he said that the rebellion is like witchcraft. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to cover it up. Because witchcraft is liars. And that's where rebels are. So anybody that's trying to get out of this uncleanness, or anybody that's trying to get out of this death and saying it's not applicable to them, they're saying the Most High has changed his mind about the coke. And if he changed his mind about the coke, which is the first line in your Torah portion, he says of the Torah. So they don't want the instructions on how to get out of this. That's the reason why the Most High designed the Torah the way that he did. And that's the reason why he put a coke here, so you and I could not get outside of it. Because the coke are the boundaries that Yah has set. Oh, you better hear what he's saying. I've set the boundaries to let you know when you're outside of the boundaries. So now you and I have been exiled. We're out of bounds. Now that you're out of bounds, I want you to know that you're out of bounds. I want you to know that once you went to your mother's funeral, you still got death on you. You're still unclean. So when I come and get you and I bring you back into my presence, listen, as soon as I bring you back and I got to make you clean, you got to go through a purification process. I got to cleanse you before you come back to me. So this puts a breach between us and Yah. It's the death that's on us that causes our uncleanness. And this is the reason why he brought us here. And he's teaching us. And he's being merciful to us. All because he's showing mercy doesn't mean you and I are clean. All because he's showing mercy doesn't mean that you and I are in his presence. We're not. Yah is not living among us in our uncleanness, everybody. He's just being merciful to us. He's speaking to us with his voice through Torah. But guess what? He does intend on speaking to us again, face to face, like he did our ancestors. And you can look forward to that. And that's the end of your teaching tonight.
Yeah.
Any questions? Because this is getting deep. This is deeper than what I thought. So maybe he didn't want me to write anything.
I like this. This kind of teaching. I wish you could go even deeper,
Yeah. Because what you see, Okoti, is like, we have to understand, like, we're in exile. So we're looking at this and we're going, okay, well, how's this mysterious? No, the Most High is telling us, these are my boundaries that I set for you. That's what a coke is. And I'm telling you what it is.
Beautiful.
And I'm letting you know that death has already been on you and that it can be in a container. It could be in a cup. My wife was at her mother's house when her mother died. Everything in the house is unclean, including my wife and every container inside the house. You see? And so we go right past it and say, well, okay, well, she died and, it was a terrible thing. Yes, it is terrible. But look how Yah sees it. Look how he sees death. Yah looks at it as a time of uncleanness, and he looks at it that it can invade you. So when we go back to the Torah and we get back to the land and we get back to the way, he's trying to let us know, if I'm going to be among you, there ain't going to be no death around me. And if there is, I got to make a way to provide you to get out of it. Because why would he call somebody dying in your sin? Why would he say that this is your sin? So sin is uncleanness to the Most High. So, but guess what? Religious people have turned around and said, oh, it's smoking, drinking, and having, premarital sex, or it's cursing, or something like that. Look how the Most High calls this sin. So what did they do? So you committed a sin by walking into the house when your mother died? No. Did the body drop dead on you, walked on a grave and you didn't know? No. You were in a war and you picked up a bone, or you thought it was a piece of wood and it was actually a bone. That's a sin. Yah is giving us some boundaries and he's letting us know what it is. And hopefully we can appreciate what he's saying. And I think we do. Praise be to the living Elohim, and shalom to you.
Shalom. Toda Rabba.
Lala Tov.
Any questions, contributions, any remarks? Shalom, everyone. Hopefully we'll get a better connection.
Shalom.
Shalom.